Hello, I'm Clyde Mitchell, conductor of Lionsgate Sinfonia, based in the most beautiful part of the world, the North Shore of Vancouver, British Columbia. I promised you an overview of Beethoven's life and his Eighth Symphony, as well as some musical snippets from the Eighth. Sinfonia had this scheduled for a couple of performances at the end of our 2019-2020 season, and we all know what happened. We'll get it performed for you as soon as possible when things open up again, and we're allowed to host you at our home in the Centennial Theater. Okay, Beethoven. Ludwig van Beethoven was born in Bonn, Germany in 1770 and died in Vienna, Austria in 1827. His Symphony No. 8, in the happy key of F major, was composed in 1812. And remember that year and what was going on in Europe. It was premiered a couple of years later in 1814 and finally published and made accessible to the world in 1815. It was composed in the standard classical four-movement format, like 4 chapters in a book. Number 1, fast. Number 2, a little slow. Number 3, dance-like. And number 4, really fast. Let's talk just a little about the creation of this charming piece. Beethoven called the Eighth his smaller symphony compared to the just completed Seventh, but he also said that he was very fond of this one. He described it as his little symphony in F to distinguish it from the much longer Pastoral Symphony, No. 6, also in the key of F. He composed the Eighth for the Austrian state attorney Herr Verena in Graz for a charity concert, but he had to withdraw it from that event because the Austrian princes who paid Beethoven's subsidies that he lived on had lowered those amounts. That necessitated Beethoven to reserve this and several other works for performance at his own concerts. He needed to make some money. Even though sketches showed that he began the symphony in 1811 at home in Vienna, he wrote much of the Eighth Symphony in the spa town of Teplitz, which is now in what we call the Czech Republic. Beethoven never really was healthy during his lifetime, and with the War of 1812 raging all around him, he wasn't doing so well and was ordered by his doctor to take some time off. With all the violence and stress caused by Napoleon's bombing and invasion of Vienna, Beethoven had to get out and went to this lovely spa town about 300 kilometers northwest of Vienna. Nowadays, it takes about 5 hours to drive that far. I've done it a few times when I've conducted the very fine orchestra in Teplitz. But I can only imagine it would have taken at least a couple of days by horse-drawn carriage in 1812. Beethoven was constantly seeking additional sources of income, whether by composing new works on commission or receiving grants and subsidies. It was good to be well connected to royalty and to other musicians. Beethoven was friends with a German contemporary named Johann Nepomuk Malzl. Malzl came from a musical family and received some musical education, but was much more inclined as a mechanic and inventor. He created automated musical machines like an orchestrator he called a panharmonicon, as well as a robotic trumpet that had lifelike motions and could change uniforms as it played military trumpet calls from France or Austria. This is the same Malzl who created ear trumpets for Beethoven and who, as a bandmaster himself, unscrupulously tried to pass off Beethoven's Battle Symphony and Wellington's Victory as his own. Anyhow, why am I talking about some German inventor who was dying of alcohol poisoning in Venezuela? Well, I suppose rum was pretty famous in Venezuela back then, too. Well, I'm talking about him because Malzl's newly invented metronome, that musical timekeeper which would make him famous, came in very handy. In fact, Beethoven said he would no longer use traditional terms such as allegro or andante, and he proceeded to write the term MM, standing for Malzl's metronome, and a specific number of beats per minute into all of his previously composed symphonies. Now, that would be a difficult task for anyone that could hear well, but remember, poor Beethoven had been getting progressively more deaf over the previous 10 years. When he went back to writing these metronome markings and specific numbers of beats per minute, some of those tempo indications were really fast, and some were a bit too slow. That's why I love to listen to many different recordings of any piece of music by many different conductors and many different orchestras. Some performers try to adhere strictly to a composer's written wishes, while others prefer to take basic matters such as tempo into their own hands. Let's listen to some music. Beethoven's Eighth starts off with a bang, stating that first theme of the first movement without any introduction. It's glorious and it's sunny, and it's rather joyfully loud at times. The second theme is much more relaxed, but that doesn't last long. In fact, contrary to what we are all taught about all of Beethoven's even-numbered symphonies being all pretty calm, while the odd-numbered ones are strong and dramatic, there's a lot of action in the Eighth. There's a lot of starting and stopping and chasing around of snippets of the themes from one group of instruments to another. Many accents and sudden outbursts appear. Well, he finally does calm down at the end. To play some examples of these themes, I've enlisted the help of my wife, the world's finest flute and piccolo player. Sarah Jackson, of the Los Angeles Philharmonic, has appeared as flute and piccolo soloist with Lionsgate Sinfonia on several occasions, and she will perform several excerpts from Beethoven's Eighth. In this case, she's going to play some violin, a little cello, maybe she'll do some clarinet, and perhaps some French horn, all on her flute or piccolo. Here is the first movement. That sounds amazingly simple and beautiful, yet I know it is deceptively complex. That is, the composition, not the flute and piccolo playing. Sarah can make anything sound easy. On to the second movement now, and here's where Matzel's metronome is on full display. There is a constant rhythmic pulse throughout this movement. 1 and 2 and pum, 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 pum. The melodies are usually gentle, little march-like themes or elegant little dance-like bursts. Like in the first movement, there are some outlandish outbursts too. Here's Sarah. If only we had the full orchestra here. There would be that constant motor driving us, pum, 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 throughout the movement. Could you tell that was a cute and elegant little walking or dance-like tune? Well, like most symphonies from the classical period, the third movement is a dance, in this case, a minuetto. Remember, the first movement was in a fast 3/4 time. If only I had an orchestra and my trusty baton, it would be counted as 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, or even faster, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Well, that makes the conductor work too hard. This now, on the third movement, is a minuet, and it's a little more of a slow and stately 3/4 time. So the tempo is more like a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's more calm, it's lovely, and mostly meandering and wandering music. Here's Sarah. Whatever the mood, you can never count on Beethoven staying calm or super agitated for very long. He'll surprise us with an enormously powerful outburst with brass and timpani leading the way, followed by pulling the rug out from under us and leaving a single clarinet playing a beautiful solo, or just the viola section whispering secretly. Never fear, though, as Beethoven always knows how to leave us gasping and in awe and wanting more. He ends this symphony with military fanfares and a big boom. Remember, it was written in 1812. Sarah? Thank you, Sarah Jackson, stellar flute and piccolo player for the world-class Los Angeles Philharmonic, for that fun and informative look and listen to portions of Beethoven's Eighth Symphony. She's on a forced leave from work like all artists in North America, but we all hope to be back performing live on stage and in person soon. Maybe we'll have to create some shorter concerts with fewer players for smaller audiences, but we promise to get the full band back together at the Centennial Theater as soon as safe and possible. As always, I'm happy to take your questions and address any requests you might have. Just log on to our website at lionsgatesinfonia.com and let us know how you're doing. The next little project will be a look at Beethoven's Coriolan Overture. Stay tuned. We look forward to seeing you again soon at Sinfonia.